To number 6 on our list, Radhika goes, waiting patiently. Radhika.
Hi, thank you, Mr. Deora, for joining us for this conversation. I would like to start on a, I would like to actually start by thanking you because the topic that I am going to bring up is cell tower radiation. And I believe that my grandmother had actually written an email to you, which you replied to. You can't hear me, Cyrus?
I can. Please don't be
Oh,
distracted. Go back to your
okay.
question.
Um, what I was saying was that this question is regarding cell tower radiation, and I believe that my grandmother had written to Mr. Deora personally asking him for some help, and he replied, and he sent a team of people to help her. I think the process was not completed, but I think he did his part by replying to her question. So thank you very much for that. So my basic question is, what is being done on from your department and your ministry on the issue of cell towers? Actually, this particular building I'm talking about in on Malabar Hill has 30 cell towers, and so part B of my question would be not only from the government side, what can we do? What can you set up like an initiative or a campaign or something for people to be aware that cell tower radiation does exist and what will be done by the government and what the effects of it is clear.
Thank you, Radhika. Thanks for raising this question because it's something I'm deeply concerned about myself, and I've been sort of working very hard in my last 2 years as a minister in this department to better regulate. Let me tell you that as of today, as I said earlier to an earlier question, that because we've embraced wireless telephony much faster than other countries, we have 4.5 lakh mobile towers in our country. We have millions and millions of handsets in our country. As early as 2008, that's when the government started to regulate and adopt certain standards to curb and limit radiation levels from these cell towers and from handsets. As of September 2012, in the Ministry of the Department of Telecommunications, we have made those limits 10 times more stringent than what almost 80% of the world follows. We are one of the few countries that has one of the most stringent regimes for limiting cell tower radiation as well as radiation from handsets in our country, and that's something we're very proud of. But I think it requires a three-pronged approach to properly implement and enforce. There's one, the work cut out for the Department of Telecommunications and the Government of India. Two is work cut out for state governments and local municipalities and panchayats. And third is what you as a citizen can do, Radhika. Let me tell you what we've done again. We have changed these limits. We have made it enforceable. We in the Ministry of Telecommunications, Department of Telecommunications, have people who regularly go out on the field, test these towers randomly, whether they're emitting beyond permissible limits. And if they are radiating beyond permissible limits, they're fined. In fact, we're in the process of doubling that fine as we speak. And then if they continue to be errant, we shut those towers down. But it's very important for state governments and municipalities and panchayats to also get involved in this, because we don't have the constitutional powers to go out and give permissions of where towers can be put up in a panchayat or in a municipality. That's for the local bodies, the local governments to decide. But what we are doing, and very soon, maybe in a few weeks' time, the Department of Telecommunications will be issuing an advisory, a set of model guidelines, if you will, to all state governments, which will request them to create a policy, to draft a framework which is in line with what we are doing. Once that is sent to all state governments, Radhika, it's really incumbent upon people who are concerned about this issue to raise awareness with their local representatives, with their municipal corporators in cities, with their MLAs and other local representatives, with their municipalities and panchayats, to really adopt the advisory guidelines that we have given to these states and municipalities in totality or to a large extent, because that will really allow us to look at this holistically and deal with this problem and enforce it in totality, not just in a piecemeal way. So I think that's something where you as a citizen can also help us, where once we give these guidelines to state governments, you can also put pressure on your local corporator, for instance, which I know is not me, although you might be living in South Mumbai. But you can also put pressure on your own society, for instance. If you live in a city and the society or the colony you live in, societies and colonies often neglect this issue because they earn money from telecom companies for installing towers on their rooftops. That's something where an active citizen, an informed citizen can spread awareness. They can ensure that before they give the society gives permission for these towers, they can check whether those towers are adhering to the government of India, to the DOT's guidelines, whether they are adhering to the guidelines laid forth by the state governments, municipalities and panchayats. So it's a three-pronged approach, but we in the Department of Telecommunications and the government of India are leaving no stone unturned to regulate this. I'm proud to say that we have a regime in place which is far more stringent than anywhere in the world. In fact, one more initiative that we are undertaking is, as of now, to decide what is a permissible limit of radiation, we rely on information that exists globally. We rely on a WHO, the World Health Organization to tell us what is permissible limits and what's not. And there's no conclusive data anywhere in the world, which is credible data, to suggest that there's a direct impact and how much of an adverse impact on human health. But we are conducting an India-centric study as we speak. We've appointed a very senior person named Dr. Ganguly, who was the head of the Indian Council of Medical Research, to lead this study. We've brought in all stakeholders. We've brought in civil society, the medical community. We've brought in, of course, the Ministry of Communications is leading this study. We've brought in the Department of Science and Technology, Government of India, the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, Government of India. We've even brought in the Ministry of Environment and Forest, Government of India, because we also want to study the impact not just on humans but on other species. And it's important to do an India-centric study because Indians have a different body mass index as maybe Europeans or Americans. And the global study that the entire world relies on is, as I said, global in nature. So it averages the world out. But when we do this India-centric study, we will know for sure whether Indians are more prone to harmful effects of radiation from these towers. And if we have conclusive data to suggest they are, we are more than open to again revisit these norms and make them even more stringent. In fact, that study could become a benchmark for the rest of the world to follow. So these are the initiatives that we are undertaking in this ministry, and I hope that you will also cooperate and work with us to spread awareness, to represent to your local corporators, your local MLA, your municipality, and of course, panchayats if people are coming from rural areas.
Milind, what about a sub-question here on the diesel consumption of these towers? Isn't that also another issue? That they're not environmentally friendly?
Right.
I mean,
right. Well, you're right, because as I said, there are 4.5 lakh towers in our country, and each tower on average consumes about 8,000 to 9,000 liters of diesel per year, which is a staggering and a shocking figure. So not only could they be potentially dangerous in terms of one's health, which, as I said, we are trying to establish through the study, but they're also not very environmentally friendly. So we have a policy, Cyrus, in our ministry now, which is a green telecom policy, where by the year 2017, we want at least half of these towers all over the country to be hybrid in nature, which will, of course, involve some diesel component because you need a diesel generator as a backup source of power. But they will also rely on solar energy, for instance, which is environmentally friendly. So we are looking at this holistically from a health point of view, from even an environment point of view, Cyrus.
Okay, thank you, Minister. Pallavi, sorry, Radhika, anything else?
Just a quick question, Mr. Deora. I was wondering, so the guidelines that the department will be implementing and that you're looking into when implementing, you're informing your state policy, will it also affect the cell towers that are currently in existence or only new cell towers?
Radhika, the policy, the advisory that we are giving to municipalities and state governments, again, is not binding because constitutionally the central government doesn't have the power to make those binding. But it's an advisory. But of course, once the state government, say for example, the Mumbai municipality accepts those advisories in letter and spirit, their advisory, and they say that we are going to follow the suggestions that the Department of Telecom has laid forth. Those will be applicable to all towers, retrospective and prospective. It has to be, because if a tower exists in a place and it's violating those advisories, yes, we would expect local municipalities and panchayats to make those retrospective in nature. I hope that no municipality or panchayat in this country ignores that and only looks at it prospectively.
And
that would be very wrong.
Yes, and every single panchayat in this country is clued into this program as we speak, so we're safe. Don't worry.